Chapter 291. Star Moon Immortal Copper. Green Explosive Killing Talisman. Xiaoyan's expression changed when he heard these words. He looked at the jade crystal cabinet in front of him with a thoughtful expression. The red explosive killing talisman was lying quietly inside. There seemed to be a faint light flashing on the talisman, giving it a mysterious aura. Voila! The voice of the academy's elder had obviously attracted the attention of other students. When they saw the young man in red robes, some of the stronger students frowned. Who is this person? I don't think I've ever seen him in the top 10 of the Soaring Dragon ranking. Not far away, a robust student whispered to his companion. Although he deliberately lowered his voice, his deep tone was still heard by many. When Xiaoyan heard this, he also looked curiously at the young man in red robes. At this moment, the latter's back was facing the crowd. Xiaoyan couldn't see his face, but from his calm demeanor, it was clear that the massive price of 120,000 Spirit Origin stones did not surprise him at all. The man calmly took out a red card. This was a Spirit Origin card, used to store Spirit Origin stones. The energy from the stones could be fully absorbed into it and later transferred into a groove when cultivating in the Spirit Origin array. Xiaoyan observed the card and mused. Elder Fang had once told him that those who possessed a Spirit Origin card were elite Inner Academy students. Since this man wasn't in the top 10 of the Soaring Dragon ranking, it was likely his strength was still extraordinary. Thank you, Elder. When the elder swiped away the 120,000 Spirit Origin stones from the card, the young man politely thanked him, put away the green explosive killing talisman, and left. A trace of solemnness appeared between Xiaoyan's brows as he watched him go. He had actually sensed a rare heat from this fellow, something he hadn't felt in years. Elder Wang, who is that guy? After the young man left, the muscular youth who had spoken earlier stepped forward and asked. Elder Wang clearly knew him well. He paused for a moment and said in a somewhat strange tone, "Strange, why does he have so many Spirit Origin stones? In the past few months, I haven't seen him among those completing missions." Shaking his head, Elder Wang continued, "His name is Zhu Tianhou. He's ranked 15th on the Soaring Dragon ranking. His strength is considered average. This time, he used years' worth of Spirit Origin stones to exchange for a green explosive killing talisman. It seems he's determined to win this competition." The burly youth chuckled, folding his arms. Although the green explosive killing talisman is powerful, it can only be used once. Getting into the top 10 of the Soaring Dragon ranking won't be so easy. After listening to the conversation, Xiaoyan withdrew his gaze from the red explosive killing talisman. This Zhu Tianhou gave him an inexplicable feeling. Shaking his head, he tossed aside the thoughts and continued wandering around the hall. As expected, it was filled with countless treasures. He even spotted several heavenly cores displayed on the highest shelves, each priced at no less than 100,000 Spirit Origin stones. Seeing this, Xiaoyan's heart stirred. He still hadn't used the 5 holy rank trials he had received earlier. According to Guxuna and Kai Lin, couldn't those be exchanged for Spirit Origin stones? This thought made Xiaoyan secretly delighted. The hesitation he'd felt earlier disappeared. While heavenly cores were extremely precious, they were currently useless to him. If he could exchange the 5 holy rank trials for nearly 600,000 Spirit Origin stones, that would be ideal. Relaxing, he began examining some of the more expensive treasures. The competition was approaching, and he had to prepare not only for himself but for Guxuna and the others as well. "Xiaoyan, go a little further inside." Just as he was leisurely walking around, Xiao's urgent voice echoed in his mind. Xiaoyan lifted his eyebrows and looked around indifferently. Seeing no one was paying attention, he casually strolled over. Under Xiao's guidance, Xiaoyan took out a red copper ball the size of a longan from a jade crystal cabinet. "What is this?" Xiaoyan held the copper ball and inspected it curiously. He didn't recognize it. "This is a good thing. It's called Star Moon Immortal Copper, one of the 5 great immortal coppers. If I add this to the weapon I'm forging for your wife Kailin, it'll definitely reach the level of a heavenly weapon. Xiao's voice held rare excitement. Star Moon Immortal Copper. 5 immortal coppers. Xiaoyan was stunned for a moment. He looked at the crimson copper ball in his hand again. A faint light rotated within it, and it felt surprisingly heavy. The 5 immortal coppers are the best materials for refining weapons. Some legendary sacred weapons were forged with them as the base material. Although you only have a little of the Star Moon Immortal Copper, it can still be used to strengthen your heavenly weapon. Xiaoyan's heart trembled at Xiao's words. Sacred weapons. These were mythical treasures. Could the 5 immortal coppers truly be so powerful? But this thing. Xiaoyan took a deep breath. Without hesitation, he gripped it and looked at the jade cabinet. Next to the Star Moon Immortal Copper was a tag. Star Moon Immortal Copper 100,000 Spirit Origin Stones. There are still people in the academy who know what's good. Xiaoyan smiled bitterly. No wonder no one took it. An unremarkable copper ball costing 100,000 Spirit Origin Stones. Ordinary people wouldn't dare buy it. Don't cry about the price. This is a material used to forge sacred artifacts. If it was sold in a large auction, it'd be worth hundreds of millions of monic crystals. But, Xiao smacked his lips. The failure rate in refining with this is quite high. If success was guaranteed, the Academy's elders would never let it go. Xiaoyan nodded silently. Since he could recognize it, the Academy clearly understood its value. The fact that they were willing to sell it meant they weren't confident in refining it into a heavenly weapon. After all, he hadn't seen any divine weapons in the hall. Even a mid-grade spirit weapon cost around 30,000 to 40,000 Spirit Origin Stones. A heavenly weapon would likely cost over 10 times that. After storing the Star Moon Immortal Copper, Xiaoyan moved on. That was just an unexpected harvest. The real goal of this visit was to find medicinal ingredients to refine essence-protecting pills. According to that senior's notes, the medicinal ingredients needed for essence-protecting pills were found in scattered regions. There aren't many, but they're extremely rare. After searching for a while, Xiaoyan sighed helplessly. The ingredients here were already rare, yet none could be used to refine essence-protecting pills. It left him disappointed. Clenching the Star Moon Immortal Copper tightly, Xiaoyan shook his head and turned to leave. But just then, a subtle sensation arose in his body, and his expression changed. Xiaoyan slowly turned to the jade cabinet beside him. Inside was a jade bottle as black as ink. It had small, inconspicuous holes in it. Through his sharp senses, he detected an intense coldness emanating from it, frosting the glass of the jade cabinet into a thick layer of ice. Chapter N. Chapter 292. Cold Dark Water. What is it? Xiaoyan walked up to the jade cabinet with doubt in his heart. As he arrived in front of it, his body unconsciously felt a chill. A trace of surprise flashed across Xiaoyan's face. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that this jade crystal cabinet was different from the others. It was even thicker, and when he touched it with his hand, a spiritual light actually flowed across the surface and knocked his palm away. A formation has been deployed on this jade crystal cabinet to prevent the cold air from leaking out. You better not try to touch it. While Xiaoyan was admiring the jade cabinet, a calm voice sounded behind him. Xiaoyan turned around and saw that it was the robust young man who had spoken to Elder Wang earlier. Formation. What's inside? Xiaoyan frowned and looked closer. Due to the frost fog, the small words on the side of the jade bottle looked extremely blurry. The burly youth looked at Xiaoyan and said expressionlessly to this unfamiliar face, "This is the cold underworld water. It has an extremely yin attribute and is extremely harmful to cultivators below the emperor level. That's why it's sealed with a formation. Yin attribute." Xiaoyan was shocked when he heard this. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the jade cabinet again, and his eyes began to show a hint of excitement. When the robust young man saw this, he snorted coldly and said, "Don't think too much. The Academy has specifically forbidden the use of the frigid underworld water in competitions. Otherwise, This thing would have been bought a long time ago. As he finished, the young man glanced at Xiaoyan. Just as he was about to leave, he turned back and added, "Moreover, ordinary people really can't afford it." With that, he casually left. Xiaoyan paused for a moment, then looked at the jade cabinet again. Through the layers of frost, he seemed to clearly see the price tag on the nameplate, 150,000 spirit origin stones. 150,000. Xiaoyan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. That price was enough to deter most people. After a moment of thought, Xiaoyan exhaled slowly. His face twitched slightly as he finally made up his mind. He had to buy this today. Since it possessed an extreme yin attribute, it might be able to neutralize the yang attribute of the flame mantra burning spell while he cultivated the yin scroll. Having decided, Xiaoyan no longer hesitated, and his mind began to stir. With the cold dark water and the previous star moon immortal copper, it would be impossible to purchase both for just 250,000 star moons. Thinking of this, Xiaoyan's expression changed. He looked at the storage ring on his hand. Back in the capital of chaos, he and Yuan Shenmu had killed a leader of the Kangri group. According to Yunlo Academy's rules, killing someone ranked on the fierce ranking would be rewarded accordingly. However, he wasn't sure whether Li Yin's ranking was high enough to earn the missing 50,000 spirit origin stones. When he arrived at the entrance of the main hall, Elder Wang was sitting in a chair, reading a thick book. Since the young man named Zhu Tianhou left, no one had used spirit origin stones to exchange for items all day. For an ordinary elder like him, this was an extremely leisurely job. This student wishes to exchange for the cold underworld water. Elder, please take it out. Elder Wang was pulled from his thoughts and looked up in dissatisfaction. When he saw Xiaoyan, he frowned, clearly unfamiliar with him. Cold dark water. Upon hearing Xiaoyan's request, Elder Wang's expression turned strange. Even he was a bit fearful of the price of that thing. Why was this guy so rich? Let me be clear. The Academy strictly forbids the use of frigid underworld water during competitions. If you're caught, both you and I will be severely punished. Elder Wang cleared his throat and spoke in a stern tone. The student understands, Xiaoyan replied with a smile, lightly touching his storage ring. Elder Wang opened his mouth and tried to calm himself. He stared at Xiaoyan for a long while and said in a low voice, "Kid, in my impression, there's no one like you on the soaring dragon ranking in the inner courtyard. 150,000 spirit origin stones. I advise you not to waste it." Xiaoyan smiled noncommittally and said nothing. A bright flash appeared in his hand as he took out a spirit origin card and handed it to Elder Wang. Seeing Xiaoyan produce the card, Elder Wang's face was filled with shock. He took it and checked the amount. The sheer number left him dizzy. Enough, enough. Elder Wang was at a loss for words. After shakily handing the card back, he stood up. Just as he was about to leave his chair, Xiaoyan placed the Star Moon Immortal Copper on the table. "This as well. Count it in." Star Moon Immortal Copper. Seeing Xiaoyan take out another treasure worth 100,000 spirit origin stones, Elder Wang nearly lost his balance. The items he thought no one could possibly afford were now being presented by this young man. It totals to 250,000 spirit origin stones. Elder Wang's voice trembled. He had worked at the Spirit Pavilion for nearly 10 years and had never handled such a massive transaction. "I wonder how much this is worth?" Xiaoyan asked, and with a flick of his finger on the storage ring, a head, completely devoid of life, fell onto the table. Seeing the lifeless face, Elder Wang wasn't too surprised. Xiaoyan had used a special method to preserve it, making identification easy. Some students nearby were drawn by the commotion. They glanced over, and when they saw the head on the table, their expressions shifted. "He can kill people on the fierce ranking. This guy's really strong." The heads on the fierce ranking are rewarded based on their strength. Even the weakest fetch 10,000 spirit origin stones. Some of the students looked at Xiaoyan enviously. With their strength, they wouldn't dare venture into the capital of chaos. Every month, they relied on the Academy's 100+ Spirit Origin Stones allowance and barely scraped by. Even when they came to the Spirit Pavilion, they only dared to look at the cheapest items. Hiss. After recognizing the head, Elder Wang sucked in a sharp breath. It was his duty to memorize the faces of those on the fierce ranking. That's why he immediately identified who it was. The leader of Kangri Group, Li Yin. He spoke in a trembling voice. Elder Wang stared at Xiaoyan, heart shaking. Who was this young man? How could he have killed Li Yin? Li Yin was widely known as the most talented elder of the Kangri Group. His strength had reached the peak of the sovereign realm. Yet, he had fallen at the hands of this young man. Seeing Xiaoyan nod indifferently, Elder Wang's hands trembled slightly. He took a deep breath, and a thought flashed through his mind. He had heard from other elders that the Saint rank trial participant from a few years ago had recently arrived at the academy. You are. His arrogance disappeared. His voice trembled slightly. That's right, it's Li Yin. I heard he ranked pretty high on the fierce ranking. I wonder how many Spirit Origin stones he's worth. Elder Wang glanced at the calm and indifferent Xiaoyan. After a brief silence, he slowly extended 4 fingers. 400,000 Spirit Origin stones. Chapter End. Battle Through the Heavens Grand World. And now as Battle Through the Firmament Grand World. Chapter 293. Soaring Dragon Rank 2. 400,000. Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel delighted upon hearing this. It had far exceeded his expectations. Not only could he purchase the Star Moon Immortal Copper and the Cold Underworld Water, but he would also have another 150,000 Spirit Origin stones left over. You must be the Saint rank trial participant who's been causing quite a stir these past few days, Elder Wang suddenly said in a low voice, after recovering from his shock. Xiaoyan raised his eyebrows upon hearing this and nodded faintly. As expected, Elder Wang took a deep breath and stored Li Yin's head into a storage ring. He stood up and said to Xiaoyan, "Please follow me." His tone no longer carried the air of an elder speaking to a student. Arriving before the jade cabinet where the cold abyss water was stored, Elder Wang took out a paper talisman and pinched it between his fingers. As flames danced around it, the talisman turned to ash and dissipated. At the same moment, a spiritual light shot out from the ashes and entered the jade cabinet. Instantly, waves of white fog surged from it. As the fog rose, Xiaoyan could clearly sense an icy chill being released from the jade crystal cabinet. Cracks quickly spread across its surface as mist filled the air. Who? Elder Wang took a deep breath, Origin Emperor key coiling around his right hand. With a sudden movement, he shattered the cracked jade cabinet and retrieved a jade bottle. This jade bottle is specially crafted to withstand the extreme cold of the frigid underworld water. It is no ordinary item. You must be extremely careful when using it. Xiaoyan nodded. Covering his hand with Origin Monarch Key, he took the jade bottle. Instantly, a piercing cold seeped through it and touched his palm. Even with his strength, the chill made him tremble. Carefully storing away the jade bottle, Xiaoyan's heart grew heavy. He still didn't know whether this would be enough to suppress the burning spell's raging yang energy. After transferring 150,000 Spirit Origin stones into Xiaoyan's Spirit Source card, Elder Wang sighed and said, "Although the Star Moon Immortal Copper is extremely precious, there's only one piece." Back then, even Mu Yuyang stood in front of the jade cabinet for a long time, yet chose not to take it. Xiaoyan quietly nodded. For a powerful expert like Mu Yuyang, 100,000 Spirit Origin stones meant little. It was only thanks to Xiaoao's encouragement that he had dared to make the exchange. Whatever Xiaoao's reasons were, they were not something Xiaoyan needed to concern himself with. Elder Wang watched Xiaoyan leave but ultimately said nothing. Looking toward the top of the hall, he shook his head. Although Xiaoyan was a Saint rank trial participant, his strength and reputation were still lacking. Once he entered the realm in Valley, someone would surely make that known. After leaving the Spirit Pavilion, Xiaoyan headed straight to the Heavenly Peak. After exchanging a few words with Su Jiang, his desire to cultivate the Yin scroll intensified. If he could successfully master it within a month, he would be able to offset his lower grade. The Buddha Fury Fire Lotus would remain his final trump card, one he hoped not to use. The secret arts and the third style of the White Tiger arts recorded in the Yin scroll were now his greatest weapons. In the deepest part of the inner academy, amidst a dense forest veiled in clouds, a group of students stood nervously, gazing at a space not far away. At the forefront stood a familiar figure. Had Shaoyan been present, he would have recognized him instantly. Zhuang He. Zhuang He wore a solemn expression, clad in radiant green armor. He stood in line with 3 others, 2 men and 1 woman, all with similarly grave expressions. The atmosphere was tense and heavy. Crack! Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound echoed from the space above, shocking everyone into alertness. Crack! Crack! The spatial fissure spread further. The next moment, a lovely voice rang out as a black figure burst forth from the void. "I'm so tired." Even before the black figure landed, it shouted lazily. Hearing this, everyone's heart trembled. Under Zhuang He's lead, the group dropped to one knee and called out in unison. "Greetings, Captain." All right, get up," the voice replied lazily. "Seriously, with my strength, what kind of danger could possibly worry me?" Zhuang He and the others quickly stood. The students behind them lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the person who had arrived. This was the granddaughter of Elder Wu Changqing. Known for her eccentric personality, she was unpredictable. If she was even slightly displeased, she would erupt in fury. The captains had all experienced her wrath firsthand. Zhuang He looked up. The figure before him was tall and slender, her long black hair flowing loosely. Her stunning beauty was accentuated by sharp brows and starry eyes, exuding a wild, captivating charm. She wore black soft armor, slightly damaged from training in the illusory spirit realm, revealing a sliver of snow-white skin at the waist. Her long legs added to her striking presence. Zhuang He involuntarily swallowed. "Brother Wu, don't say that. The elder is just worried about your safety. Anyone coming out of the illusory spirit realm is usually exhausted, and this forest is full of beasts," said the only female captain, chuckling. Though Wu Shaoqi was a woman, her demeanor was quite masculine. She insisted on being called Brother Wu. "Where's Lu Xiangyang?" Wu Shaoqi suddenly turned to Zhuang He and asked coldly, "Didn't that guy say he wanted to challenge me?" "I'm back. Where is he?" A hint of ruthlessness flashed in Zhuang He's eyes as he forced a smile. "Captain, let's leave Captain Lu aside for now. While you were in the illusory spirit realm, a Saint rank trial participant arrived in the academy." Saint rank trial participant. Wu Shaoqi's beautiful eyes lit up with excitement. "The same kind as Mu Yuyang. Where is he? Take me there now." Zhuang He was secretly pleased, just about to stoke the flames further, when the female captain smiled and said, "Brother Wu, you just got back. Rest for a few days. Besides, the inner court elders have already scheduled the inner courtyard competition for 24 days from now. You'll have your chance then." Hearing that, Wu Shaoqi calmed down. Rubbing her chin thoughtfully, she said, "That's true. I may feel full of energy now, but the Saint rank trial participant probably isn't weak. I'll test him properly when the competition begins." Zhuang He's expression shifted. He hurriedly added, "Captain, from what I hear, many people are eager to challenge him during the competition. If someone defeats him before you get the chance, it'll be too late." Wu Shaoqi narrowed her eyes at him and snorted. "That would just mean the Saint rank trial participant is weak. If that's the case, defeating him would be meaningless. Qianer, let's go. I need a good sleep. I'm exhausted." The woman named Qianer nodded and left with Wu Shaoqi. Behind them, Zhuang He's face turned extremely grim. After a long pause, he exhaled deeply and signaled the students to follow. Second place on the Soaring Dragon ranking. No. First place within a month. Wu Shaoqi has returned. Zhuang He had only taken a few steps. when Wu Shaoqi's excited shout echoed from the distance. His fists clenched tightly, and his eyes grew colder. Chapter N. Battle Through the Heavens. Grand World. And now as. Battle Through the Firmament. Grand World. Chapter 294. Yin and Yang Merging. Above the heavenly peak, dense clouds floated like a paradise. At the summit, a majestic courtyard stood. Shaoyan sat cross-legged on a bluestone, and in front of him was a jade bottle as black as ink. Endless cold qi radiated from it, and the surrounding plants were covered in a layer of frost. Guxuna and Kai Lin stood in the distance, worry evident on their faces. Shaoyan had explained the matter to them beforehand. They were well aware of the dangers involved. Despite this, they couldn't dissuade Shaoyan from his decision. All they could do was halt their own cultivation and guard him closely, just in case. Shaoyan's finger swept across the jade bottle as his expression gradually calmed. Extreme coldness instantly spread through his finger, causing his blood to freeze slightly. Buzz! Shaoyan's brows furrowed. The origin monic qi in his body surged, flowing wildly through his limbs and bones. Simultaneously, he began clearing his meridians. The circulation route of the flame mantra burning spell buzzed, accompanied by obscure and incomprehensible scriptures. Waves of heat rapidly spread through his meridians. The origin monic qi within him seemed to burn. Swoosh! Shaoyan inhaled deeply. His 10 fingers moved swiftly, forming seals according to the instructions in the Yin scroll. His fingers flickered at strange angles, and in just moments, the seal was complete. Boom! The instant the seal formed, Shaoyan's face turned red. His clothes exploded with a loud bang, and wisps of white mist emerged from his flushed skin. The green stones beneath him began to melt visibly, and the surrounding plants ignited spontaneously, burning into ash. Guxuna and Kai Lin were shocked by Shaoyan's condition. Fortunately, both were seasoned cultivators. Though anxious, they didn't act recklessly. They clenched their fists, sweat already appearing on the pretty faces. Shaoyan's eyes remained shut, his skin glowing scarlet. Inside his body, the scene was even more intense. The flame mantra burning spell surged like a furious lion, crazily resisting the trace of yin qi condensed through his hand seal. The vast origin monic qi was like an endless flame, surrounding the yin qi like a storm. The yin qi was as fragile as a candle in a hurricane, on the verge of extinction. Even Xiao could offer little help against the flame mantra burning spell's reaction. All he could do was suppress the violent fluctuations of the monic flame. Since the flame mantra burning spell had first emerged in the fighting Daoqi continent, it had formed a profound connection with Shaoyan. Every time he consumed a heavenly flame, he relied on the flame mantra burning spell, deepening this bond. With the fusion of 23 heavenly flames into the chaos great monic flame, the flame mantra burning spell naturally merged with the monic flame. As soon as the yin qi appeared, the extreme yang nature of the flame mantra burning spell erupted. Without Xiao's intervention, the monic flame would have acted on its own, leading to far greater consequences for Shaoyan. Enduring the blazing pain within him, Shaoyan suddenly opened his eyes and shattered the jade bottle with a slap. Instantly, an overwhelming cold spread outward, freezing the surrounding flora into icy fragments. Even from a distance, Guxuna and Kai Lin felt bone-piercing cold. They quickly circulated their origin monic qi to resist the chill. The moment the jade bottle shattered, Shaoyan inhaled the freezing air. The power of the cold dark water completely exceeded his expectations. His body stiffened, and even his blood seemed to halt. Shaoyan's face became expressionless as he endured unimaginable pain. His body was simultaneously scorched by the flame mantra burning spell and frozen by the cold dark water. This dual baptism of fire and ice nearly drove him unconscious. Husband Shaoyan. Guxuna couldn't help but cry out as she saw Shaoyan frozen into an ice sculpture. The unbearable cold made it hard to even stand near him, let alone endure what he was experiencing. Kai Lin also wore a solemn expression. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anxiety. Like Guxuna, she could do nothing but pray Shaoyan could survive on his own. As if sensing the yang energy within Xiaoyan, the cold air surged toward him, instantly freezing his body solid, skin, blood, and all. Controlled by the invading cold, the icy qi seeped through his skin, seeking the extreme yang within. The trace of yin qi that had been forcefully condensed inside Xiaoyan tried to resist but was crushed by the flame mantra burning spell's immense power. In an instant, it was nearly destroyed. But just then, a massive surge of cold energy poured into Xiaoyan's body, overwhelming the extreme yang energy of the flame mantra burning spell. Buzz! A deafening sound echoed within him. Xiaoyan's frozen face twitched, and his red eyes opened. He coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, which froze before hitting the ground. His vision blurred. Vaguely, he could feel the flame mantra burning spell raging wildly, battling against the overwhelming cold. The two opposing forces of extreme yin and yang clashed like titans within his body, using his body as their battlefield. The flame mantra burning spell roared endlessly, while the cold energy poured in without restraint. These two extremes gnawed at Xiaoyan from both sides. His body was covered in ice, yet seared by internal heat. In this chaotic state, 6 hours passed in a blur. Guxuna and Kai Lin remained completely tense. They didn't dare move. They had watched Xiaoyan groan softly at first, then fall silent as he passed out. Still, they kept their composure and did not interfere. Whether he survived or not would be determined by Xiaoyan's own will. Kai Lin, the temperature seems to have risen again. Guxuna's voice broke the silence, startling Kai Lin. She dispersed her protective origin monic qi and realized the atmosphere had indeed warmed. The cold underworld water has been depleted. I wonder if the power of the flame mantra burning spell has also lessened. Kai Lin's beautiful eyes fixed on Xiaoyan as she murmured. Inside Xiaoyan's body, Xiaoao was drenched in sweat, hiding within the monic flame. The chaos from earlier had even startled him. If he hadn't exerted all his strength to suppress the monic flame, the cold dark water would have been destroyed long ago. Now, it had been entirely consumed, and the flame mantra burning spell had been significantly weakened. With a change in expression, Xiaoao noticed the yin qi hiding deep within one of Xiaoyan's obscure qi paths. It trembled faintly. Xiaoao chuckled. This guy's luck isn't bad. With the yang energy weakened, maybe he can successfully merge yin and yang. In the outside world, Xiaoyan's eyes slowly opened. His face was ghostly pale. The blood at the corner of his mouth had frozen into a faint red mark. Cracks ran across his skin from the torment of fire and ice, looking terrifying upon close inspection. But Xiaoyan didn't care about the pain. He immediately focused his mind and examined his internal condition. When he sensed the newly balanced state of the flame mantra burning spell, he was overjoyed. Though the movement strained his body and caused pain, his face twitched with suppressed excitement. Now that yin and yang had fused, he could finally cultivate the secret arts of the yin. Scroll without restraint. All the pain he had endured was worth it. Chapter end. C295. We are separated by each other. After relaxing for a while, Xiaoyan endured the pain in his body. Once again, he formed a hand seal. The surrounding origin monic qi immediately roared and surged into his body. Guided by specific meridians, it continuously flowed into a dark vortex within Xiaoyan's body. The vortex began to rotate wildly, and wisps of yin qi flowed out, invading the flame mantra burning spell's strongest force. In Xiaoyan's trance, it felt as if two forces were competing within him, yin and yang, constantly devouring and merging. Initially, the white yang energy dominated the sphere, but as the vortex strengthened, the black yin energy grew. Due to intense energy consumption, the flame mantra burning spell couldn't suppress it. Soon, the black energy occupied half the space. Weng. About an hour later, Xiaoyan's body emitted a buzzing sound that shook his nerves. In the next instant, it was as if immortal music echoed, like 100 birds facing a phoenix. A pleasant, indescribable sound emerged from his body. Though quiet, it carried a strange vibration. The clouds above Heavenly Peak scattered, and the sound echoed across the 9 heavens, majestic like the voices of 10,000 spirits. The first elder of Yunlo Academy slowly opened his cloudy eyes in a dark room beneath Heaven Pillar Peak. His gaze seemed to pierce the shadows. Myriad Tao spirit voice, yin and yang as one. He murmured. After a moment of silence, Zhu Jufang muttered, "It can't be Mu Yu Yang. This yin-yang fusion, it's far more powerful than his. Who could it be?" In the technique impartation hall, Su Jiang furrowed his brows, a flash of doubt in his eyes. He sensed something strange but couldn't pinpoint it. Realm in Valley. A towering peak stood tall like a blade piercing the sky, exuding majestic aura. In the middle of this peak, a handsome youth in a green robe strolled through the forest. With sword-shaped eyebrows, starry eyes, and jet black hair flowing like a waterfall, he had an elegant, jade-like appearance. His gaze sparkled with a terrifying brilliance. Suddenly, his brows furrowed. He looked up at the sky, remaining silent for a long while. What was that strange feeling just now? At that same moment, several powerful elders from Yunlo Academy sensed the anomaly, though vaguely. A third-grade elder like Elder Fang sensed nothing at all. Buzz. Within Shaoyan's origin monic crystal, yin and yang fish rotated slowly, like a millstone divided between black and white. Though clearly distinct, every turn caused them to merge momentarily, harmonizing as true yin and yang. Although Shaoyan didn't fully understand this energy, he could feel a surge of unprecedented power within. It was both unyielding and gentle. His growth wasn't just addition, it was transformation. Hong! Shaoyan's eyes suddenly flew open. A beam of essence burst from the top of his head, piercing the sky. An explosive force erupted, flinging plants and turning stone into dust. Zuna and Kai Lin were thrown back by the force. They quickly stabilized using Origin Monic Key. As the dust settled, a human figure emerged, and their worried hearts eased. Shaoyan slowly stood. His wounds had healed, though his clothes were tattered, and his face dirty, his body brimmed with power. Clenching his fists, he felt boundless energy coursing through him, stronger than ever before. His sparkling eyes calmed, and a heroic spirit surged within. Roar! Suddenly, Shaoyan looked to the sky and let out a thunderous roar, releasing the last of the turbid energy inside. Cracking sounds echoed from his body as yin and yang energy spread from his abdomen to every corner of his being. "It seems I've succeeded." Kai Lin smiled gently, finally, able to relax after the intense ordeal. "That's wonderful." Zuna smiled enchantingly, pressing her palms together and breathing out in relief. Shaoyan's earlier state had nearly made her faint. After a while, Shaoyan's roar faded. A feeling of freedom washed over him. He had released everything. The energy within him surged, more abundant and refined than before. A gentleness now existed in his origin monic key, less sharp, but far more powerful. "Husband Shaoyan, how do you feel?" Zuna ran to him excitedly, eyes full of anticipation. Shaoyan turned his head and saw Kai Lin approaching with a smile. "If I took Bai Yongzhao's 6 shattering heavens spear again, I could shatter it with one punch." He raised his fist with a smile. Zuna and Kai Lin were shocked, then overjoyed. Previously, Shaoyan had endured the spear by force, cracking his palm. But now, his strength had grown incredibly. "I have a rough idea. Bai Yongzhao wasn't using full strength back then. But even if he did, I wouldn't fear him," Shaoyan said seriously. "But it's still not enough. Lu Xiangyang is likely far stronger than Bai Yongzhao. I don't yet know his full strength, and then there's Mu Yiyu. Those two will be my true challengers." As Shaoyan spoke in a deep tone, Zuna and Kai Lin exchanged glances. Their eyes sparkled with joy. In just a few days at Yunlo Academy, Shaoyan had surpassed even Bai Yongzhao. He truly lived up to the prestige of the Flame Emperor of the fighting Daoqi continent. "Husband Shaoyan, besides Lu Xiangyang and Mu Yiyu, you have another opponent." Zuna smiled softly, glancing at Shaoyan's body. Her cheeks flushed as she looked away shyly. Kai Lin bit her lip and turned away as well, refusing to look at him. Shaoyan was stunned. He looked down at his own body and chuckled. Pulling a black robe from his storage ring, he put it on and teased. "You're already my old wife. What are you shy about?" Kai Lin snorted in response. Rogue. Zana's face turned bright red, and she remained silent. Xiaoyan smiled bitterly and turned to Zana again. "That person, she's second on the soaring dragon ranking." Zana nodded shyly. "Yes. Her name is Wu Xiaoqi, granddaughter of Elder Wu Changqing. She's incredibly talented and has long cultivated in the illusory spirit realm. I don't know how strong she's become. Even Mu Yiyu seems wary of her." Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.